All right, next up we have Kate Kuehn going Rethinking Risk. Please give a warm welcome.
I love going right after lunch. I hope everyone doesn't have a nap. It'll be good. And after going after somebody like Mike, it's going to be a tough job. But this afternoon, we're here to talk about artificial intelligence, the theme of the conference this year. And we've had a lot of discussion about what is the future of AI? What is AI? What is the risk of AI? What is the opportunity? And one of the things that I think about as a chief trust officer is how do we demystify AI? Because there's a lot of hype right now. Your toaster is going to eat your microwave. The machines are going to rise up. But the reality is that AI has been around a really long time. And we have to figure out a way from an enterprise and a personal perspective, how do we see the forest through the trees? The hype from the reality. And how do we look at this collectively? So I'm never going to claim to be an AI expert, but just a little history. I have been working or in part of AI from literally the time I was 10 years old. Why do I say that? Well, AI, one part of AI is machine learning, right? Everyone agree with that? Yeah. So when I was 10 years old, my father had a car accident. And he was a quadriplegic. He was paralyzed from the neck down. And from almost overnight, we worked with the VA and hospitals to give us tooling to have robotics enhance our lives. He had a specialized device put into his heart and up through his shoulder that allowed him to use his shoulder like a joystick to open and close his fingers. Our house was wired to have voice recognition so that we could have doors opened and closed. Guess what, guys? This was like 1987. So while I'd never say I was an expert, I saw the impact of AI very early in my life. I also then fell in love with technology and about 10 years ago helped co-found and was CEO of an AI security company that used machine learning and AI triangulation based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework to help look for adversary patterns in organizations. The reality, though, is it doesn't matter how many years you have from an AI perspective, we're all novices. We're coming out of the second AI winter, and the key is to remember we don't really know what the future holds. Will we achieve true general AI? Will we have a day where machines think just like humans? We don't know yet. And so I think we have to remember that we all need to take a stance from a novice perspective as we look at this brave new world. So for those that follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, I put the AI headline of the day up every single day, the article of the day. And we're going to start here because this is a great example of the hype and the noise about AI. This was my headline yesterday. Man whose AI girlfriend encouraged him to assassinate Queen Elizabeth gets 9 years in prison. Anyone know this story? Little bit? Okay. So a gentleman who was very upset with the royal family back in 2020 created an AI girlfriend. And for 6 months, he fed that model all of his anger, all of his angst about the royal family. And things that they had done back in the 1920s, that was the root of his angst, was actually issues he had with the royal family from the 1920s. And he kept telling his girlfriend, his AI girlfriend, whose name was, I think, Scythie, that he was a Dark Lord Star Wars assassin. That he was literally a paid assassin. This is what he told his AI girlfriend. And he trained the model that he was an assassin, he was part of the Star Wars culture, and that the royal family was the evil overlords that needed to die. And after 6 months of training, guess what the AI told him? To kill the queen. That she thought it was a good idea. And guess what he did? He infiltrated Windsor Castle with a crossbow. Yeah. Now he's in prison for 9 years. But these are the sensational stories about AI that are attention-grabbing. Here's the mystification. Here's the robots rising up and telling an obviously mentally ill person to kill someone, and that it's okay. It's not the fact that we've created a piece of software that was mistrained for 7 months or 8 months or whatever the total was, to then produce a result based on the data that was inputted. So whose fault is it? Is it the software program for allowing a model to go bad? Is it the human for putting bad data in? Or is it a blurred line? What do you guys think? Kind of a blurred line, right? How do you part the controls around it? So with that, let's have a little bit of fun. What is AI? Well, AI is an artificial intelligence, a machine's ability to perform the cognitive functions we usually associate with human minds. Everyone here know who the person on the left is? No? It's Vint Cerf. Everyone know who Vint Cerf is? No. Okay, well, we'll give a little history lesson. Vint Cerf is currently serving as the internet evangelist for Google. He also was one of the first people to create TCP/IP and the ARPANET program for the government. He is truly one of the fathers of the internet. He also worked in MCI back in the mid-2000s when I was there in my early 20s, and I once got an amazing summer experience of literally carrying his briefcase around. He became a mentor of mine. And I love his quote here, and you're going to see a couple of Vinton quotes, because whenever I'm dealing with new technology or Brave New World, I go to Uncle Vint, because he's kind of rational when it comes to things with the internet, because, well, he created it. I give him a lot of credit for that. He said, actually, AI could stand for artificial idiot. Here's why that, as we think about how we demystify, is important. If AI is the ability to perform functions that are in human minds, and human minds are what? Are we perfect? No, we're flawed. Then how do we expect to create a perfect version of a flawed model? We can't. So, do you think we need to put some rules to the road around demystification? Yeah, if we're going to put this into real practice. So, we're going to level set. Again, I am not an AI expert, I'm an AI novice. There's two main categories of AI in the world today. There's narrow and there's general or strong. Everything we do today, every piece of anything that is AI, congratulations, is narrow AI. There is no general or strong AI in the world today. Narrow AI is actually things that can perform specific tasks. It doesn't matter how cool it is, doesn't matter how much it, creates cool language models and things like ChatGPT or all that stuff. It's still a task-based solution. It does one or two things or is layered with other iterations of AI to create human-like result, not cognitive result. Big difference. 3 types: robotic, generative, machine learning. Anyone who wants to argue with me afterwards on this, come on, we can have a really good argument. Bring it on. But for bases of this talk, because remember, I'm a novice, this is what we're going to talk about. General or strong AI is a type of AI that can perform any task a human can from a cognitive perspective, meaning it thinks on its own. We're not there yet. Now, how did I get all this information? Well, this is how crazy I am. When I decided to demystify AI, I figured I better go back to school. So I've been at MIT all fall, learning business strategy and AI risk and strategy from MIT. Because why not? With 5 kids, I've got free time. Let's go to MIT. From a market factor perspective, AI, again, there's a lot of mystification. It's going to take all our jobs. It's going to transform the world. It's going to do all these crazy things. But the reality is it already lives within all of our technology core competencies that make up operational resilience. AI has been a part of things like manufacturing and retail for over 10 years. It's mainstream. And the reality is that all companies today, irregardless whether it's import in their own way or through supply chain, are either a consumer, a producer, or both of AI. The demystification happens how? By understanding where it actually lives within your environment. From there are only 2 reasons companies actually leverage AI. One is cost control, efficiency around people, process, or technology, doing something differently to have an efficient result, or market differentiation, to do something that's never been done before and capitalize on market disruption. That's it. It's not this huge revolution. It's something that we've been dealing with for decades at this point. It's just now getting a lot of attention. So if it's not new, why all the fuss? This is AI Kate version 1. And as I was creating AI Kate version 1, I took all the social media pictures that are out on me, giving talks and everything else, and I trained the AI into what did I want to be when I was a little girl? What was my number 1 goal? Number 1 goal when I was a little girl is I wanted to win an Oscar. I was going to be an actress. And this is what AI Kate version 1 came up with of Kate as an Oscar award winner. She doesn't have as many wrinkles. Her hair is always good. God, I love AI Kate version 1. I think I would have looked good on a stage. But why is there all the fuss today? Well, the reality is we have a brave new world going on. We're seeing with the advent of ChatGPT, large language models starting to really disrupt how we work. How do we think about things like academia, research, creation of new solutions? And we're starting to see companies really grapple with what are the levels and the controls we want to associate with that. Great example. Anyone hear about the Samsung case? Yep, yep. Okay. Samsung had been working on a new product in stealth for 10 years. 6 months before release, an engineer decided there's this new thing out called ChatGPT. I'm just going to inject a small amount of the code to see if we're actually valid and on the right trail. And that'll be really good because we can validate we've got such an amazing opportunity. Blah, 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 blah. He had every excuse under the book. So he did. When Samsung went to file their patents, because they'd put part of the source code into an open model, it was unpatentable. 10 years worth of work gone. So the fuss is not necessarily about all the transformation from a human perspective. Well, that's a lot of noise. It's the risk perspective. How do we think about the risk? How do we create a methodology to understand what's different? How do we address the industry changes that are causing AI to be front and center? So why is this happening now? Well, we're coming off of COVID. We have a lot of political instability. We've got a lot of different changes happening in our environment right now. And what we're seeing is we're all moving to cloud. Customer experience from a remote perspective is critical. What is your online presence? We all now live in an online world. Skilled resources are in short supply. We're still in an employee deficit coming off the last couple years. Security and privacy are paramount. Everybody's terrified about the hackers that are going to come get us if you think of like CSI Cyber and everything else. And data is now our crown jewel we have to protect. It's not brick and mortar anymore. It's not all these other things. And at this point, still, this stat, every year I look at it and it's still about the same. 66% of companies right now are trying to deliver some type of digital transformation that has an AI component in it. So we have this entire industry that's focusing on customer experience, cloud, big data, skilled people. And there's an AI component of opportunity in each one. Because of this opportunity, and this expansion from a digital world, we're seeing an ever-growing attack surface. Let's walk through why the attack surface is growing. Well, who here says that technology now lives in every part of a business operation? Everybody? Everybody's hand should be up. There's a technical aspect to everything. Who here would say there is a cyber component to all technology? Yep. Congratulations, cyber risk just became operational risk, full stop. Yeah. So if we are totally operational risk, think about it. Email, IoT, endpoint, on-prem, cloud, SaaS, insider threat. Every area that AI has the potential to touch has a cyber risk component. So if we don't think of the AI opportunity and the risk at the same time, remember how we always used to complain that cyber was the afterthought, it was the thing you put in the back of the room? Guess what? With AI, we don't have that choice. We've got to get to the front of it fast. Because it's a ton of risk considerations. Outside that expansive, absolutely huge attack surface, here's all the risks the board's thinking about: liability, product, regulatory, breach, reputational. Reputational. Do you know that reputational risk was the second most expensive type of risk last year for organizations? Anyone hear what happened to Eli Lilly? Yep. You've heard of everything. I love it. Eli Lilly had a Twitter attack. Somebody put up some fake accounts Twitter. Guess what happened? Stock drop by, anyone want to guess? 12%. Fake Twitter accounts equal to 12% stock drop on a Fortune 50 company. Reputational, one of the biggest concerns. So if we have this world of change going on, we have this ever-growing attack surface, we have all these new risk considerations that as practitioners, like, when's the last time you thought about reputational risk? How do I build a box for that? The world is a little different. And you start to think of going, well, do we really want to add AI in the middle of this? Again, got to have Vint in the middle. But the other part we need to think about is this: the employees. In the middle of all of this, the employees, because we have now what is the most important thing that we're trying to enhance with AI, that we're trying to defend with AI, is the data. Operational efficiency, cost effectiveness, market differentiation. Again, AI is just what? Software. We build software to help humans. So if the humans are trying to be helped, they're also the attack surface. Scary stat, we just released, everyone I hope reads it, the Aon Resilience Report. Very proud of it. It is the first report of its kind where we are bridging data from the insurance marketplace with our claims and breach data. Kind of cool, full circle shop. 82% of breach last year involved the human element. 82%. Whether that was social attacks, errors, or misuse. So we're going to hear this weekend that phishing is now more sophisticated, that ChatGPT is writing better codes and scripts for malicious activities. Malware is going to change. We're going to continue to attack. And the reality is that the humans are still our biggest attack surface. And so if we're going to add AI, we need to understand how we protect the humans from our own innovation. When we think about the humans and we think about all of the risks in the attack surface, we also need to think about the changing of the vocabulary. So when I started looking at AI, one of the things that really scared me was social control software. Social control software is the #1 export out of Eastern Europe right now. Did anyone know that? It's monitoring your social profiles to create custom content leveraging artificial intelligence to sway your opinion in one direction or another. Think about where that could be used. Population control, election tampering. It's a whole new area of risk. And it's really weaponization and misinformation. So as we start to understand the AI risk and that the fact that the employees are the attack surface and the machines are going to start eating the toasters and all of the robots are going to rise up, these are the new terms that we need to start considering as practitioners when we think about how we create new security controls around AI. Deception, value, goals, power-seeking behavior, proxy gaming, weaponization, misinformation. These are the terms we knew from like 10 years ago, right? No. Brave new world. The problem is we can't stop the train. So again, AI Kate version 1. I was trying to give you guys version 2, but the software company that owns her voice wants me to pay like $300 to unlock her voice, and I wasn't going to do it for this call. Sorry, guys. I'll get her unlocked for next time. But this is AI Kate version 1 again. So the next thing I asked it to do was to create a look for me as a very powerful CEO woman. This is their CEO look of me. I like it. I wish my face were that skinny, my hair glowy. That'd be great. But the reality is, as much as we look at the risk and the gloom and the doom, is that the opportunity and the risk are two sides of the same coin. Irregardless of how much we think about things like AI girlfriends trying to kill the queen, or Samsung having a major case, or anything else, poisoning, thinking about deep fake attacks, all the things we like to think of when thinking of AI, Gen AI being used for a new ransomware. The reality is the strategies and strengths in the customer experience from a board level perspective outweigh the risk. I do a lot of work with the National Association of Corporate Directors, which is kind of the influencing arm for over 24,000 public-facing board members. And I taught a class like this on digital disruption a couple months ago, showcasing some of the new things in AI. And this is what they said. The number one thing is that AI is on track to deliver a 40% growth on average in revenue across organizations that have a holistic adoption plan. Market share and competitive positioning are considered critical if you're going to survive in a new AI world. Brand reputation, sustainability, regulatory, long-term vision, stakeholder communications, innovation, culture, M&A activity. This is what a board sees when they hear the words AI. Guess what's right in the middle? Risk. So it's going to fall on the risk executive, and you're going to hear me not use the word CISO, but risk executive, because we're going to see the role of the CISO evolve as we enter into this brave new world. The CISO is not only going to have technical skills from a risk perspective, but business, fiduciary, and regulatory responsibility as we get into the new world of AI. But with all these different things that a board thinks is great about AI, do you think the train's going to stop? No. So when I went back to school, I looked and decided we need a new approach on how we think about risk and opportunity. Anyone want to guess how many competing frameworks to implement AI out in the marketplace today? Come on, guys, 1, 2, 10? 26. Woohoo. Big Four, NIST, everybody's thrown their hat in the ring. I'm going to be the AI framework. We all know NIST is going to win the day. No offense to any Big Four in the room, but let's call a spade a spade. Here's the problem. As a chief trust officer, I spend a lot of time with boards. And every board goes, Kate, I'm glad there's all these frameworks, but I don't even know where it lives within my environment. How the hell do I pick a framework? So we decided to create a methodology. Went back to school, created a methodology. When you start to think about where AI lives, you have to first assess, then quantify, then manage where AI is in your environment. And when we really boiled it down, AI only lives in 3 risk towers that a board looks at: reputational, operational, and security, both physical and logical. Reputational risks rising from failure to manage business. The AI goes crazy, the model gets poisoned, it decides to tell you to kill the queen. Yeah, that's reputational risk. Operational. You're autonomous, we'll talk because we have a lot of folks representing from the mining division here, the mining ISAC. Your autonomous vehicle that goes in the mine has a code injected to it where it decides instead of driving into the mine to drive off the side of the mine, and you lose a whole bunch of different types of ore. That's an operational risk, right? Yeah. Security. Your AI systems that execute your payroll and do all of your chatbot features with your employees on your benefits site decides to tell everyone that they're getting a $100,000 raise because of a major win within the stock. Guess what? These kind of things happen. It's a security risk, right? You have to assess, quantify, and manage where AI lives in order to understand. Once you start assessing, quantifying, and managing, then you can actually create a real resiliency model. Assessing the business landscape from a regulation and an internal control process of what changes are going to be beneficial or risky from an AI deployment. Some examples that people don't really think about from AI is most people have AI within their HR systems, payroll, chatbots, ability to look at trends in health and what benefits. Are you a healthy employee? Do you have statistical analysis that maybe you need some additional help within your benefit system? Manufacturing, robotics, supply chain. AI is in a lot of places we don't necessarily think of. It's not just ChatGPT. Once you've assessed all those things, then it's quantifying. What are those AI systems that really do have a tie to your true resilience? What would the impact be if they go down? Do you have a way to roll back into a non-AI state? And then how do you manage them? What controls do you need to put in place? The reality is, in that evaluation phase of evaluation, qualifying, and developing, there's really 6 areas that every single AI portion of an organization, from a deployment standpoint, needs to be thought about in, from a legal and regulatory perspective. Again, remember, those ChatGPT things, the LLMs, have you looked at the EULA? Is the data yours after it goes in? You're laughing, I'm barely serious. Most people don't ever look at their end user license agreements. Do you understand the data privacy? You're a healthcare company, you decide to put an LLM in place. You're gonna use, some new language modeling. And guess what? It's open source and you put private patient data in. Are you in PII violation, even if it's anonymized? Got to know those things. Financial. Financial is pretty easy from the sense of a lot of times it's just reporting and that kind of stuff. But 2, are you going to use AI and do prediction modeling around your online banking, offering suggestions of new solutions? Is there any type of legal and ramification if you use client data in that way? Is it an open source model? Do you understand your supply chain? Human capital, operational, technical, and external. Every single area that you put AI in an organization, these are the factors that you should think about and get a baseline before you put a framework in place. And make sure that you're educating from a board perspective. What are the risks and the opportunities the board wants to achieve? And how is the opportunity AI is going to pose be impacted by this methodology? Once you kind of understand and get a baseline of it, then the question is prioritization. You take all of the different ways AI lives within your organization and you create a bow tie analysis. What would happen if the AI goes bad? If it's an LLM, or a generative AI scenario, what happens if the data is poisoned? What would that event look like? Is it going to cause you wide-scale disruption? Is it going to be a termination scenario? Is it just an error? And then how does it bow tie out? Do you have the current controls in place to fix it, roll it back? And what is your response going to be if something happens? From there, what is the financial and the deployment impact, considering all these different areas? Wow, cybersecurity's role has really, really expanded a lot. All of a sudden I'm seeing words like regulatory, financial, human capital, technical, external. I'm getting really tired just thinking about all this. So what does this mean? If we're able to get the bow tie analysis right, then it becomes a lot less risky to embrace the AI opportunity because we have a true understanding of what we're getting ourselves into, right? Yeah. If we know what we're dealing with, then the risk and the controls we normally put in place, remember what we usually do, adversary simulation, tabletops, looking for the bad guys, what's going to happen, becomes a lot easier. But what the real silver lining is here is it starts to achieve the integrated approach of business security and IT into true operational resilience. So remember how I said that there are 2 sides of the same coin, opportunity and risk? The reality is that AI and the adoption of AI in our world is really starting to push forward that integrated approach necessary for holistic cyber planning. Again, because cybersecurity is in all technology equals operational resilience, and AI will be what helps kind of push the scales into true integrated cyber decision making. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions, but I wanted to leave it with the last conversation I had with Vint. When I saw Vint, like I said, I've known Vint as a mentor since I was about 24 years old. And about 10 years ago, I was on a Zoom call with him, and we were talking about this and that, and he was doing some work with one of my kids, and they asked, "Are you happy that you created the internet?" What do you think his response was? He looked my daughter in the eyes, and he said, "I'm still not sure if what I did was a good thing. There's so much bad that's come from it." Think about that. The man that created the internet. I'm not sure it was a good thing. There's been so much bad that came from it. And so this year, when he was honored by IEEE, I called him afterwards, and I said, "Well, what are you thinking? Congratulations." And he said, "Kate, I'm excited now. I love where we're headed coming out of the second AI winter, and the fact that opportunity is now endless. Software, and then computer communication," because Vint, for the most part, hates saying the word AI. He's always like software, because it is. Guys, it's software. It's bits and bytes. It's not alien poop. It didn't come from the sky. We created it. Software, and therefore computer communication, simply has no limits. You never know what you're going to see on the next turn. And I kind of love that as we think about AI. I'm excited about the opportunity. I think we need discipline. I think we need to follow methodology. I think we need to remember it's been around a really long time, since Alan Turing. 50 plus years, guys? Maybe even longer. But what we as humans, those flawed individuals, is going to be limitless. With that, thank you. Any questions? Yes. I can hear you. Otherwise, I can come down and give you a microphone. So let me address that, and I'll reword the question. The question was, I focused a lot in business, but I'm not really focusing on the military and the actual threat of AI. Is that right? Good?
From its parent, and it takes 18 years. And that threat of immediate learning by an entity he saw as an existential threat to the human race.
So I would agree with you in the sense that if we were achieving general AI, which is actually cognitive AI, where they're thinking like humans, where we've actually achieved human-like thinking with computers, they still think that's about 10 to 20 years away in true production, if not longer. Because again, we're flawed, and what we're seeing in a lot of the LLMs and the generative AI is degradation and model explosion over time. I don't discount what's happening from a military perspective. I get briefed on a fairly regular basis on a lot of different levels. I'm gonna tell you a couple things. One, AI's been around a really long time. So machine learning, robotics are part of warfare, have been forever. Social control software, what we're seeing, come out of China, what we're seeing come out of Iran, even the influence in our own political system. Again, we need to become more cyber aware. It was over 10 years ago where I was on a panel in Daycon, if anyone remembers Daycon in Dayton, Ohio, where there was an incredible 19-year-old sitting with a top hat on a panel with me, and she was actually doing her master's thesis in Manitoba, Canada, about injecting human empathy in robots so that they would so that soldiers would be more susceptible to be killed. So you could use a robot to kill a human, but train the robot leveraging human empathy so that the human would feel sorry for the robot and not break it. Think about that.
Can I add, though, that this isn't my point of view, because if it is, it would be worthless. Again,
No, it's not.
I saw this on Zakaria GPS on CNN from one of the fathers, and he used the term, not me, he used the fathers of the guy that's been doing this since the 60s of AI. And that was his contention. And so what I'm recommending to the group is take a look at that and then decide.
Yeah, I would agree. There's a lot of things we do need to think about and decide. And from a military perspective, there's a lot of different things that are endangering to the human race, from an AI threat perspective. The reality of today is the network-to-network learning you're talking about at this moment is still narrow, meaning it's a function. There is still a software component. If we bridge the gap to general AI, you're exactly right. There is a big concern about it, and there should be a concern. But the reality of the situation is I can see, 15, 20, I get briefed on a fairly regular basis, like I said, of AI use cases that are detrimental to the human race. We can't educate ourselves on every single use case that could drive us to extinction. What we can do is become cyber aware and understand how we weigh the risks and the benefits of leveraging greater adoption. Last case example on this, and then I'll be quiet about this point and ask for additional questions, is, when we first started looking at how to approach AI, one of the things that was really interesting to me was I was being briefed by the British government a couple of years ago, and given the proliferation of population control software, AI modeling of the US population and being able to sway opinion, and the advent of data bomb ransomware that is non-recoverable to destroy critical data sets in critical national infrastructure. The analysis was that we were at a 50-50 percentile for a world war by 2027. Last time I checked, they're still thinking that for those 3 use cases. So I think you're right. There's a lot of different scenarios within AI that we need to educate ourselves on as extreme case. But the reality is we still have day jobs. And right now, we have to educate ourselves on the best way to be responsible towards the technology right now. Any other questions? Yeah. That's an interesting question is, why are there no plugins of like, that's bullshit? We are seeing some of it. I think and not in a great way. Like, I'm in agreement with you. I'd like to see more, to be honest with you. You're starting to see social media companies trying to get more disinformation down. You know, this isn't an appropriate post, this and that. The reality, though, is that there's a lot of disinformation that masks itself under, you know, pseudo news organizations, different things that are actually politically okay. You are allowed in the US to have free speech, right? So unfortunately, we're kind of our worst enemy in that type of a defense. That's a really good idea. I think you've got your next company there. So what he said was, he was saying, why is there not a solution that we could plug into our computer that says there is a 99.9% chance that what we're being fed on that news article or in that social feed is disinformation, misinformation, and you should ignore it? Your choice, opt in. And I think it's a really good idea. Yeah, Win.
There's actually a fair amount of work going on in that area right now. Oddly enough, that little ecosystem that you just kind of referenced that she said you ought to build a company from, predominantly it began with college students from Stanford. I'm assuming MIT got in the mix, but those kind of caliber of people saying we need to be able to filter out the bullshit. And if it can be created using an algorithm, it should be able to be detected, for lack of any other word. And as Kate said, with some degree, it's 82%. And we've been through this for 40 years in this industry already with approximations on avoiding pathological dangers to our systems. So spot on, and it's happening right now. And if you come to my talk tomorrow, if I'm awake for it, I get heavily into how to fight disinformation, whether it is AI generated or just bullshit generated. But no, spot on, and it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, go to Wynn's talk. The last time I heard Wynn talk is the only time I've ever argued about with Diana Kelly about anything, and we both couldn't figure out at the end of the talk what we were arguing about and which one of us was right. You remember that. Any other questions, guys? One in the back. Uh-oh. Hold on, Parker. They're going to bring you a mic.
All right. Oh, God. So it seems like with the Samsung case and many other cases where people said, oh, someone used some AI tools when they shouldn't and didn't read the EULAs, isn't this more of a problem with cloud than AI?
I don't necessarily think it's a cloud problem. I think it's a software problem, to be honest with you, because it could be, hang on, it could be on-prem or it could be software. I mean, it could be cloud-based software. It depends. The issue is with the end-user license agreements. And what I mean by that is that we have a click-through trust scenario where we try different things and we click through and we don't know what we're actually agreeing to. So especially when it comes to software. So while I do agree, because I know where you're headed, is that there is a cloud component to this, the reality is we as organizations have to get much, much more mature around application and software and user licensing and the ramifications of injection of third-party and fourth-party risk into our environments. That's the real issue there.
So would it help if there was an open source license for the open source models people might want to run themselves that says, hey, your data still belongs to you, whatever you give this thing, and whatever it spits back is yours, running on your metal?
It would be very good if the data could belong to us, but the issue is the regulatory piece, because depending on the type of data, whether you're dealing with PII, whether you're dealing with financial data, whether you're dealing with the data that my eyes are brown, my hair is blonde, you know, my physical traits, there's different regulatory parameters around that. And we have to take that into consideration. But I hear your point. There was one more question, then we got to wrap. What are we doing about code bias and model poisoning and all that kind of fun stuff? So again, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I posted a video last week of an African-American Barbie with a gun. Not kidding. I'm really nervous about bias because, again, when we start to think about model creation, are we a perfect society? No. Can the software we build be perfect? No. So these are some of the things that make me nervous about bias. How many people here have an Alexa? Or a home thing, Siri? Everybody should be raising their hands. Come on, there's something in your home that answers to you. Is the voice a woman or a man's? How many has a woman? Yeah, most of them are women. So there was a really interesting question that came out of one of my women's groups. Are we training the next generation to think of women as servants again? Think about that. That's the voice that serves you, that helps you. They're always women. Another interesting thing about bias is, and I played around with this, is with ChatGPT. Tell ChatGPT to show you photos of a physician. How many times do you think it shows you a photo of a woman? Of an African American? How many times when you say, show me a cook, does it show a man? Frenchman, yeah, there you go. I'm not saying this to be controversial, but I'm saying we have inherent bias. Not because we're intentional, but because we have in our society, it's a fact. There are more males of certain types in certain positions, more females in certain types in certain positions, and the AI highlights our own current environment, which then reintroduces biases we as a society are trying to overcome. So how do we train the model? How do we go by this? The other thing that really makes me nervous is model collapse, or what's called model failure. So ChatGPT, a lot of generative AI, I love a lot of things about it. I play with it all the time. But the models are degrading over time. Does anyone know how long a normal generative AI model will last before it collapses or needs to be retooled because of bias and other things? 18 months. Average cost of one? $5 million. So this is why, as we look at all the opportunities and risk, AI has been around forever, whether we're looking at machine learning, whether we're looking at robotics, or the brave new world of generative AI. But it's not perfect. And we have to think about things like bias and model collapse, because we're going to continue to have to understand the real risks we impose being a flawed individual. With that, thank you very much, guys.